74 films that are going to be screened throughout the festival. Can you talk a little bit about the 6888 led by Major Charity Adams? I never knew that there was an all-Black, all-female troupe that existed during any of our wars. Can you give us a little insight on that one?
Oh, absolutely. And we're so excited to have that film. It's called 6888. And as you mentioned, it was the largest group of Black service women.
Six 888 Central Postal Director started in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
We called it 6888 CPD.
That's when I was overseas with 6888.
We call it the 6888.
The entire country was mobilized in support of the World War.
In July 1943, General Eisenhower had asked,
You don't gotta keep calling the cops on me. I'll be working again soon. Actually, no, I didn't. What I did was I broke up a fight, but that's what y'all are harassing me for, Lucy?
Turn your fucking camera off!
Hi, I'm Janice Hazel, and thanks for tuning in to Urban Interests. Here's what we're covering today. Former African Union Ambassador, Dr. Arikana Chi Hombora-Awe on colonialism, Pistons community benefits, and I-375. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned after these messages for Urban Interest.
In 2019, Michigan lawmakers passed the first no-fault reform bill in state's history. As a result of that bill, we created safeguards to make sure that there was no longer abuse by providers and lawyers. In fact, Cure Auto Insurance entered the state of Michigan because of that law, saving drivers like you over 40% on its car insurance. For the first time in state history, certain areas of Michigan could finally afford car insurance. That savings from car insurance is now in jeopardy. If Senate Bill 530 and 531 are passed as law, your car insurance rates will go up. I urge you to get involved and contact your local legislator and let them know that you don't want them to make any changes to that 2019 reform bill. Make a difference. Explain to them how affordable car insurance has changed your life. Trust me, they'll want to be hearing from you.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times with a global pandemic now approaching its third year. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. To see if you qualify, please visit. Call 313-388-9799 or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Hi, I'm Herb Strather, and I want to appeal to the community to join me in the good fight, in the impact in the lives of our young people, for us to come together and build STEAM centers, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, so we can challenge them. They're good and smart just like I was, but they're ignored. We do not have the facilities. Individually, we can't do this, but collectively, we could come together and do it. We could find, fund, finance, fix, and do everything we need as a community. Now there's Greektown, Midtown, Downtown, Corktown. We're gonna do Grand Rivertown. And we're going to use our community, the resources in our community to save our community. And it's going to be for our children. I want you to join us. And if you're interested, then I want you to go to grandrivertown.com and register.
Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kiwawo is a medical doctor who immigrated to the United States from Zimbabwe in 1977, graduated from Fisk University and Meharry Medical College, and practiced family law for 29 years in Tennessee. From 2012 to 2016, she served as the chair of the African Union African Diaspora Health Initiative. And from 2017 to 2019, she became a worldwide figure as the United Nations Ambassador for the African Union. In October 2019, she was terminated from her job when she criticized the ongoing colonial relationship between the West and Africa.
And for Africa, I came to the conclusion that France was the biggest risk to peace and security and overall African development, particularly in West Africa, because of one particular agreement that they would make the African heads of state sign when they were receiving their independence. It was a horrible, continues to be a horrible document that sadly, it has been allowed to continue to this very day, to the serious detriment of the Africans. So I set out to educate the Africans about France. Others would say, why didn't you talk about the British and all other colonizers? Yes, we would speak about them as well. But the one that is leading the pack, the one that is taking the crown of the abuse and exploitation, it is France. And I felt very strongly that if France can come to the table and also renegotiate those contracts, if France can leave Africa, that would be the beginning of true liberation, and I'm talking economic liberation of the African continent. So France is leading the pack because of its deep roots within Africa, because of the agreements that the heads of states were made to sign during independence of Africa.
Yeah, by that document, I know you were referring to the Pact on the Continued Colonization. I think you've made reference to it in quite a number of your speeches, the continued colonization of African states. Is that it?
That's correct.
Dr. Chihombori Kiwawo has repeatedly stated that enough is enough. Her sharing of strong views on France's occupation and hold over its former colonies and the damage that has been sustained because of colonial rule and apartheid, what is not common knowledge or reported in major news outlets is that the West, including the United States, is responsible for the destabilization, lack of economic development, continuous wars, and military coups in Africa. To watch the full interview with Dr. Chihombori Kiwawo, scroll down the playlist here on the Urban Information Network to Channel 11. Now, the weather could not have been more cooperative for the press conference we covered this week on renovated parks. Take a look.
My name is Gregory Kelser, and I am very pleased to be here as we look to unveil a new basketball court at Howarth Park and celebrate the completion of the final phase of the Detroit Pistons' 6-year, $2.5 million basketball court renovation and refurbishment project with the City of Detroit's Parks and Recreation Department, a partnership that saw over 60 court renovations in parks throughout the city since 2017. So to help us today open this fully refurbished court here at Howarth Park and share details on the completion of the 6-year project, please welcome Detroit Pistons Vice Chairman Arn Tellem. Stand up, Arn, let everybody see you. No, I'll bring you up in a second. I just want everybody to see you right now. City of Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan. Detroit City Councilman Scott Benson. and the Senior Vice President and Executive Director of City Year and the President of Burr and Iowa Block Clubs, Sharice Butler. You're a busy lady.
We have Mr. Earl Cureton, former Piston basketball player. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. You know, nice playground out here. Bunch of wonderful kids out here, and so
Beautiful weather for this occasion.
it's a good day.
So how are you involved with the Pistons today, Earl? It's okay if I call you Earl.
Yeah, that's fine. My involvement is ambassador of the community for the Detroit Pistons. So I do a lot of our community projects, like the basketball courts. And you heard him mention Osborne High School. We just put a weight room in over there and get a chance to talk to all the kids. You know, I grew up obviously right here in the city of Detroit, on the east side of Detroit. So I get an opportunity.
This guy's the east side of y'all. Good people. But listen, the court is definitely beautiful. I see a container of basketballs. Will they have rec instructors here, or will the kids be on their own?
Yeah, no, they'll bring people in. Throughout the summer, we come around and do different clinics and do camps and stuff on the basketball court. You know, Aaron Smith with Pistons Academy will come through. I show up sometime to come in and work with the kids, and so there'll be some instructional stuff going on during the summer months.
That's great. That is something that is needed for our youth in the city of Detroit. We need them to be engaged in positive activities. They also need mental exercises. I know firsthand, having grown up in gymnastics at the YWCA and cheerleading with the Westside Cubs Little League athletic teams. We'll bring you updates from developer Herb Strather about his plans for our youth at the renovated Mammoth building. Now, turning to I-375, the committee charged with planning the I-375 Reconnecting Communities project, some call it the Great Paveover, are finalizing their work. The freeway was part of a government policy to destroy Black communities during the 1950s in the name of urban renewal. There were protests against the paveover, but it was not sustained. The following clip is from a 2022 press conference.
Sometimes fixing the damn roads means facing the repercussions of how the roads were originally built, who was included in that process and who was not, who was empowered and who was displaced. And when a generation's old piece of infrastructure comes to the end of its useful life, it requires us to decide in our time whether we're just going to put things back exactly as they were or whether we're going to build back better. And we know that some of the planners and politicians behind decisions in the past built roads like this one through the heart of vibrant, populated communities, sometimes even in an effort to reinforce segregation. Sometimes simply because the people who lived there did not have the power to resist and force change. Here in Detroit, when I-375 was built in 1964, they literally bulldozed the neighborhoods of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, displacing so many, mostly Black Detroiters. And now this freeway, a generation later, serves to divide communities, primarily communities of color and low-income communities, from the central business district, the recreational areas, and other great assets downtown. And the freeway design is actually contributing to worse congestion and more traffic crashes on roads nearby. The purpose of transportation is to connect. But we have seen examples in many communities, including here, where an infrastructure decision serves to divide. And we raise this issue not to wallow in it, but to challenge ourselves to do something about it. And now we are putting our money where our mouth is. Governor Whitner, Mayor Duggan, local advocates, the congressional delegation have supported the application for federal grant funding to fix this, and then did exactly what good advocates should do, which is kept pounding on the door, explaining the difference that this would make in the community, and making sure that this got every full and fair consideration in the process. And the result of that is that today I'm delighted to officially announce that the Department of Transportation is awarding $100 million to transform I-375 to reunite this part of Detroit to a connected, thriving community.
The Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, acknowledged in 2022 that there were people excluded from the planning process for I-375 in 1964 who did not have political clout. We know Black Detroiters did not have the political clout to stop the destruction of their homes and businesses by the building of I-375. And he said what the government did initially was, quote, bulldozed the neighborhoods of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, displacing so many, mostly Black Detroiters, that a generation later serves to divide communities, primarily low income and communities of color, from the central business district, recreational areas, and other assets of downtown. The Transportation Secretary went on to say, and this is a quote, "The purpose of transportation is to connect. The infrastructure decisions made in Detroit to divide, they served to divide," unquote. Black Detroiters know it was the government's intention to displace and divide. Local, state, and federal government officials have supported an application for federal grant funding to fix this inequitable tragedy that divided Black Detroiters from the city's assets and destroyed Black businesses and their homes, thereby destroying Black generational wealth for Black Detroiters. When the $100 million pave over project is completed, its intention is to connect the destroyed communities. That's not possible because the original inhabitants are long gone. Most are deceased, and the area has been gentrified. Detroiters are advocating for reparations to be paid to the descendants of those who were harmed by the destruction of their homes and their businesses. For more info, check out build.gov, michigan.gov/MDOT, and detroitmi.gov, and we'll also keep you updated. Now, don't go anywhere. We'll have interviews with producers of the 4th Annual Black Film Festival. We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors.
Question: do you know of John Henrik Clark or Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? Have you ever heard of Mansa Musa? Or do you know the difference between Native Americans and First Americans? Or why the ancient Egyptians wore their hair in dreadlocks or clean shaven like the brothers do today? Or who were the Barbary pirates really? Hint, they didn't look like Johnny Depp. Or why Haiti has the lowest COVID rate and America the highest in the world. At UIN TV, we have the answer to these questions and much, much more, because we are the keepers of our culture. Help us preserve this information and save it for your generations to come. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support, and subscribe today. Please do it now.
In 2019, Michigan lawmakers passed the first no-fault reform bill in state's history. As a result of that bill, we created safeguards to make sure that there was no longer abuse by providers and lawyers. In fact, Cure Auto Insurance entered the state of Michigan because of that law, saving drivers like you over 40% on its car insurance. For the first time in state history, certain areas of Michigan could finally afford car insurance. That savings from car insurance is now in jeopardy. If Senate Bill 530 and 531 are passed as law, your car insurance rates will go up. I urge you to get involved and contact your local legislator and let them know that you don't want them to make any changes to that 2019 reform bill. Make a difference. Explain to them how affordable car insurance has changed your life. Trust me, they'll want to be hearing from you.
Hi, I'm Herb Strather, and I want to appeal to the community to join me in the good fight, in the impact in the lives of our young people, for us to come together and build STEAM centers, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, so we can challenge them. They're good and smart just like I was, but they're ignored. We do not have the facilities. You know, individually, we can't do this, but collectively, we could come together and do it. We could find, fund, finance, fix, and do everything we need as a community. Now there's Greektown, Midtown, downtown, Corktown. We're going to do Grand Rivertown. And we're going to use our community, the resources in our community to save our community. And it's going to be for our children. I want you to join us. And if you're interested, then I want you to go to grandrivertown.com and register.
With me today is a special treat. We have Marshelle Favors, one of the producers of the Detroit Black Film Festival, now in its 4th year, being held September 27th through October 1st. Now, Marshelle Montgomery Favors is a producer and a director raised in Inkster, Michigan. Since 2006, she has produced 6 independent feature films and has written and directed 3 short films. Yay! Welcome, Marshelle. Thank you. Welcome back. We had you here a little earlier in the year on another topic, but thank you for coming back and talking with us about this wonderful event. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about—
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. So the 4th annual Detroit Black Film Festival will showcase the voices of Black filmmakers, independent filmmakers from around the globe, right? And I understand that the goal is to elevate narratives that center the experience and culture of Black people worldwide. So everyone, this festival is dedicated to screening excellent, high-quality films from seasoned and emerging filmmakers that strive as they journey through their filmmaking experience to provide an exceptional platform for their work. And they do, because I have been going for 2 years. So this will be my 3rd year of your 4th. So let's walk through it. What is the schedule, first and foremost?
Thank you so much, Janice. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited because the festival kicks off tomorrow, September 27th. And we kick it off with what we call our media day. So we're inviting the media to come in, and we have a lineup of 7 short films that they can watch. And we also have the public coming in also as well too, so they can give us give them a glimpse of the genres of films that will be highlighted at the festival. So we picked like a comedy, a documentary, a student film, a narrative short film. So they get to enjoy that. And then that evening, we're going to kick off with 1 short film and a feature film by Detroit filmmakers. You know, we always have to highlight Detroit. So what up, though? And on September 28th, we have, we call it Straight Short Films, No Chaser, because it starts our short films all day. And then September 29th, we call it Feature Film Friday. So all day we'll have feature films playing at our venues. And we have 2 screening venues, one at the Car Center and one at the Downtown Bowl YMCA. So after the feature films on Friday, we get into Taste of Black Spirits, which is going to be at the Doubletree Hotel. And one of the highlights of that event is that we have none other than Mr. Biggs, Ron Isley of the Isley Brothers, who has a brandy, Contagious XO brandy, that he's rolling out, and he is launching it here in Detroit at this festival. And so we're really, really excited about that. And the person who also is distilling his whiskey, his brandy, I'm sorry, it's a brandy, not a whiskey, it's a brandy, is Vanessa Braxton, and she's the first African-American distiller in the US, and she will be there as well. And then September 30th, we kick it off with what we call Conversations with Brian Smiley, who is originally from Detroit, but has a really extensive career in the industry. And he's currently the Chief Creative Officer for Kevin Hart's company, Heartbeat Entertainment. And so we have films again, more films. It's all about the films that follow that. An Afterglow at One Mike Detroit, which is Mike F's venue that's in downtown Detroit. And then October 1st, we wrap it up with a screening of documentary films, and we celebrate our filmmakers at our award ceremony. So that's the in a nutshell. That's like a quick breakdown, but there's so many things that's layered in between everything that I just said.
Absolutely. And let's just tell everyone, what's the pricing schedule? I know you have a day pass, you've got the complete festival pass, and then how do they get those on Eventbrite? I understand. If you could just give us an overview of that.
I'll give you an overview of that. So all the tickets are available on Eventbrite, and we have a festival pass. You want the breakdown of the cost as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's $200 for the festival pass. So that would include all the screenings with Brian. And with Brian Smiley, it will include the Taste of Black Spirits as well, and as well as any of like our signature events. So that covers everything. There's a $100 festival pass, which includes everything except for the Taste of Black Spirits. There's also the Best Pass if you just want to watch movies, the day pass for $25. But we do, if there's one particular film that you want to see for one screening block of films, it's $15 for that. And if you go to Eventbrite, type in Detroit Black Film Festival, the pricing is there, the options for the festival passes and individual tickets are there, and the screening schedule, which is really important because we have 3 venues for the entire festival. 2 screening venues, one at the Carr Center and one at the downtown Marlene Bowl Theater. So you really have to pay attention to where your films are going to screen. And our event hotel, which is a Black-owned hotel, love saying that, which is the DoubleTree Suites, where Brian Smiley, the conversation where Brian Smiley will be, and then the Taste of Black Spirits. So most of the signature events at the hotel, screening at the Carr and the YMCA.
That sounds great. Now, tell us a little bit about the Filmmakers Lounge, the Detroit Black Film Festival and the Filmmakers Lounge. Is that going to be open only to the filmmakers that have films in the festival, or will other filmmakers, because you know folks are making films with their cell phones, are they able to come to that if they buy a pass?
A great question. Thank you for that. So the lounge is at the hotel, at the DoubleTree Hotel. We have, so that's where Brian Smiley will be. And throughout the festival, at any point in time, if filmmakers want to connect, we're going to leave that space open for the filmmakers and the public, so they can have roundtable discussions. And your next guest is going to tell you a little bit about that also. So there's a room at the DoubleTree Suites where filmmakers can just gather. If they see some films and want a place to connect and meet up, that's what that space is for, at the DoubleTree Hotel.
Okay, all right. Now, let's talk about one of the films. When I looked through all of it, and it's a lot, it's 74 films that are going to be screened throughout the festival. Can you talk a little bit about the 6888, led by Major Charity Adams? I never knew that there was an all-Black, all-female troupe that existed during any of our wars. Can you give us a little insight on that one?
Oh, absolutely. And we're so excited to have that film. It's called 6888. And as you mentioned, it was the largest group of Black servicewomen to serve overseas during World War II. And it's just historic. It's the Central Postal Directory Battalion. That's what it was called and known for. And we're so honored because not only is the director going to attend the screening, but also one of the members of the 6888 will be there for the screening as well. So we're really looking forward to that. And we're really just ecstatic to have the film. And you may not know, but actually Tyler Perry is doing a narrative film around the 6888. And so this is the documentary film about the movie, and later you can expect to see a narrative film around the 6888 as well.
That's so necessary and so awesome, because we see a movement around the United States to erase Black history, going back to the period of enslavement, which you and your husband Lazar and I have talked about with Egyptologists before. But it's so necessary to showcase this, because again, this is something that I never saw in any history book about this regiment of Black women during World War II, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, any of them. And it's so necessary. Talk a little bit about Cheryl Lee Ralph's unexpected short, the documentary short, Unexpected Areas. As we know, Cheryl Lee Ralph is an Emmy-winning actress. I have been able to interview her a few times on politics, not just film, but on politics. So she's really exciting. Will she be in attendance, or will we just be screening one of the films that she's worked on?
As far as I know, we're screening the film. But just a little tidbit about my journey as a festival director. The reason the Detroit Black Film Festival even exists was because of Shirley Ralph. And I attended a film festival that she actually curated many years ago. I don't know if people know that she actually had the Jamaican Black Film Festival in Jamaica. And I attended that festival, and it was one of the inspirations for starting the Detroit Black Film Festival. So I'm so honored to have one of her films that she's produced called Unexpected. It's directed by Zebariah Newman, and it chronicles Masonia Trailer and Cece Coven. And they've created like this really safe network of support and services for women who have been newly diagnosed with HIV. And it's a really powerful film, and we're really excited for folks to see it. But she is excited that the film is in the festival. But and she knows this. She knows how much she has meant to me over the years, and how much it has meant to support, even though this festival is only 4 years old, I've been running film festivals for over 17 years. And it all started at that festival that she had in Jamaica years ago.
That's excellent and wonderful to know. The topic really caught my eye about HIV, because having lived in Washington in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, I personally lost 15 friends to AIDS at the very beginning, when people were dying. They were diagnosed and then they were dead within months, definitely within a year. So it's very special to me to talk about the people that we've lost and those who are unfortunately being diagnosed today. So I'm so glad that that's going to be screened during this festival.
And actually, as folks may or may not know, Shirley Ralph has been an advocate for rights for those with HIV, and has uplifted the story of folks. So I'm really excited to see this piece, because she's continuing that work. And I just love the fact that we're keeping such a prominent issue, especially facing African American females in this story, and keeping it in the forefront.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Detroiters that are going to be have their film showcased. Fractured Hope is one of them, and Intimate Betrayal. Could you just talk a little bit about those two and the filmmakers?
Absolutely. So, Fractured Hope with Keely Stevens, and I'm getting the filmmakers. I'll have to circle back with the name of his name is on tip of my tongue. I spoke to him last week. I can see his name, but so Fractured Hope is a story around a family that has a child with autism. And it's actually a series, but this one particular story shows a Hispanic family, and they do different ethnicities in the series. And so it's a struggle of hope and family and challenges that they have around learning about, how to communicate with their child with autism. And it's a really impactful story. And then we have the second film by Mike Jeffers and the late Melissa Talbot, who was just an icon and a pillar in the Detroit independent film community and the theater community. So it's one of her films as well as Mike Jeffers. And there's just so much talent that's here in Detroit, the independent film industry. There's a movement here. There's so many independent films that are made here, and this is just another one of them. And expect a little spiciness, expect a little drama, so they're definitely bringing it. So that's kicking off our festival. That's our opening night films, our Fractured and Ultimate Betrayal. And so you have to check those out. We have a really, really great lineup, but we're kicking it off with our homegrown folks right here. And then there's another film in the festival, Die Willie Die. It's a documentary. And just to give you also a breakdown, because I didn't say this earlier. So if you're looking for a docs, all the docs are at the Carr Center. And that's a way to break it up. So if you look like, where's the documentary from? They're all at the Carr Center. So you have the documentary films at the Carr Center. Most of the narrative films are at the YMCA. So Die Willie Die is about the Willie Lynch theory and how it's been indoctrinated in within like African Americans, our mindset, our mentality. And it's time for the Willie Lynch mentality to die. And so that's the premise of that, synopsis of that. So it's about putting the Willie Lynch theory to bed.
That sounds incredible. So much talent. We all know that Detroit is the center of the universe anyway, with so much talent in so many areas. I want to circle back before we go to the break to the taste of Black spirits. So the cocktail concierge, you'll have an opportunity to sample an array of handcrafted cocktails, especially crafted by your talented mixologist. You must be 21 years old or older with ID. Remember that. And you must drink responsibly. But the mixologist will be there. And so you'll have your classic favorites and innovative creations. Talk just a little bit before we go to break about the beverages, the spirits that will be sampled during the concierge, the taste of Black spirits.
And that is my husband's baby, Taste of Black Spirits. He represents over 42 Black-owned spirit brands. And even though it says spirits, he really represents spirits, also wine, beer, water, tea, across the board there. And so with Taste of Black Spirits, what I really love about the experience is that not only do you get a chance to sample the brands, but the brand owners will actually be there. So you get the chance to hear about their background and their experience and as owners and, in this industry as well. So a lot of networking that happens. And then I always say, as a signature event for the festival, it's party time. It's sampling these handcrafted cocktails and again, it's this year's theme is cinema, cuisines, cocktails. And so what's a festival without, the festivities that come along with it? And so we're really excited to bring these brands, here at the Taste of Black Spirits. And I promise you, every year we have this, people say that I didn't know so many brands, because there's almost 300 brands that exist, but we have 42 that, are represented at this particular event. And it's just a great time. It's a great time. It's a great time to connect. It's a great time to try some brands that you haven't had. And even if you have had them, it's a great time to connect with the entrepreneurs and the brand owners that are making such an impact in this industry.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to take a short break for our messages from our sponsors, and we will be back with another exciting moment in time with Jamie Burton-Oare. She's a native of Michigan, out of Flint, and she's going to talk about her documentary short and other films that she has and other projects. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after these messages.
911, what's your emergency? Oh my God! A child gets shot! Signal 13 involving a child. The medicine route.
It is time. Time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends. I want to feel safe.
It's time. Time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on it.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down. We have hopes. Dreams.
Goals. Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live. Help us thrive.
Help us build a better future.
Hey man, you got smoke?
Yo, you don't gotta keep calling the cops on me. I'll be working again soon.
Actually, no, I didn't. What I did was I broke up a fight, but that's what y'all are harassing me for, Lucy? Turn your fucking camera off!
My, how powerful. I tell you, that trailer leaves me hungry to see the rest of this film, which is a narrative, and we're going to talk more about that. With me right now is our own homegirl hailing from Flint, Michigan, Jamie Burton-Oare. She is an award-winning writer, director, and actor whose feature film directorial debut, Doing the LA Thing, premiered at the American Black Film Festival, was nominated for the Best Director First Feature Award at the Pan-African Film Festival, and she's a winner of the HBO Best Feature Film Award at the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, which I love Martha's Vineyard, and I love their film festivals. Jamie's short film, The Bully, garnered the Best Short Film Award at the Boca Black Film Festival and was nominated for the Producers Award, once again, at the Martha's Vineyard Black Film Festival. Her films are produced through the production company Jomaja Films, and she's going to tell us what that means and why it was named Jomaja. And she is, as I said, a native of Flint, Michigan, which provides the foundation for much of her work. Jamie's most recent script, penned and co-written by Sky Dennis, which is African American, to be produced by Oscar winner Ruth Carter. how much more credentialing do you need, my sister? You are awesome. Thank you for joining us, Jamie. How are you?
Janice. Thank you, Janice, for having us. It's a pleasure to be in the company of you and Marshelle, and it's an honor. Thank you so much.
And you're in LA right now, correct?
Yes, I'm in LA, Inglewood to be exact, and but home is always Flint for me.
Oh, absolutely. As I said, I spent 30 years in Washington, D.C., but I never considered myself a Washingtonian. I've always been a Detroiter, ride or die. Well, let's jump right into it. You have a film, a narrative short that will be screened during the 4th annual Detroit Black Film Festival here in Detroit. And we just opened with the trailer for Breathe, which is all about the killing of Eric Garner. And as I said, I mean, it just sends chills through my spine to think about his murder and how the police were not made accountable for that murder. The short narrative film, Breathe, explores the life of Eric Garner and the issue of over-policing. My. Let's talk about first, Joe Manja Films. What does that acronym, if you will, stand for?
Okay, so Joe Manja is actually dedicated to the lineage of women in my family. So the J-O is for my great-grandmother, Johnny Woodard, who raised me. She passed when I was 12, alongside Olivia, who was my mother's mother, who passed when my mom was 6. So the O is for Olivia. The M-A is for Maxine, who is my mother, and to know me is to know my mother. And the J-A is for Jamie. So it's a dedication to the lineage of the women that I come from.
Absolutely. Such great stock. Now, Breathe is starring Stephen Hill of the updated or the new Magnum PI. And of course, it's going to be, I guess it's debuting, or is it premiering here at the Detroit Black Film Festival? Okay.
It is premiering at the blackest city in America, which I couldn't be more proud of. And my sister, my friend's festival that she and Lazar have created and curated since its inception, and including Trinity. She's been doing this so long. So for her to choose this film, for them to say that this film is able to rise to the caliber of what they do, I just feel very blessed. I couldn't have chosen a better place. It's interesting because as filmmakers, you're almost inundated that you should premiere at the Sundances and the South by Southwest, and you kind of have that mindset at some point. But the more you work, the more you understand that your project, for me, it's art and it's an expression of who I am. And so the best place for that to be projected into the world is Detroit, in my opinion. I mean, Flint would have been great, but it's Detroit. Detroit is my cousin, so I'm happy to be with my cousin.
Right down the road. And so your love language is telling stories. And just a shout out, in the previous segment, we forgot to tell you the other Detroiters in the film festival are James Turner and Keely Stevens. So we want to make sure that during the festival, you check out the Detroiters as well as the other global. We have films that are coming from Africa, from the continent, as well as other countries. So it's amazing. So let's jump right into the killing of Eric Garner. And it's so important that we create our own narratives, because the mainstream media, or the white media, will say, the death of, let's be clear, Eric Garner was killed. Trayvon Martin was killed, was murdered. All of these men and women, Black, who are being killed by over-policing, overzealous public officials, because that's what police officers are. Telling this story is so critical, because the I can't breathe is more than a hashtag. It's more than a mantra. It's for real. We're seeing, we saw George Floyd saying, I can't breathe. while an officer had his knee on his neck. I mean, that just harkens back to enslavement when we were not seen as human beings, but any living organism, if you cut off their air passage, they can't breathe. So tell me about this, sister. What made you want to focus on Eric Garner?
I agree with everything you just said. So I was actually in my last year of graduate school at Cal State University Northridge, but always shout out to Howard University, my alma mater. But I was in my last year at semester, and I had to take a short film class, which I thought, why am I taking this? But I had to. So the impetus at that time was to think about something that inspired me. It was August 2014. The killing of Eric Garner occurred in July of 2014. It was fresh on my mind. And literally, God gave me this brilliant idea, I think it's brilliant, of how to tell the story. So I wrote the film, and what was beautiful is it ended up being a blessing because I had an entire semester to focus on this script. And usually you don't have that much time for a short film, not in the script form. So at the end of the class, my professor, we did readings, and my professor pulled me to the side separately and said, you have to make this film. I said, oh, I plan to, because I was only in grad school to create work for myself. I was not there to get a job. So fast forward, I felt I wanted the blessing of the family. So I reached out to Emerald Garner, and I also reached out to Ramsey Orta, who is a big part of the story as well. And Ramsey was the one who was the voyeur who filmed Eric Garner, that we all got to see, his friend. And so I talked to them, and one of them was yes, the other one, he was dealing with law enforcement harassing him. So I began to move forward, and I had an investor. That didn't work out. I put it down. Fast forward to 2022, I was approached by Don Norwood to produce his directorial debut. And in his story, a lot of the elements that were needed for my story were present, like dealing with the police, dealing with police cars, and things of that nature, which are really expensive things to deal with in production. So once I completed his project as producer, again, God just gave me this idea because I wasn't thinking about it, and just reminded me, hey, Breathe, at the time it was called I Can't Breathe, has all these elements. So you can make your film. And I thought to myself, I can. And I hadn't done a GoFundMe yet or, crowdfunding. So I decided to make this short, my crowdfunding start. So I had already spoken to Stephen Hill, who is a friend of mine, incredible actor, huge on the independent cinema scene. And he even has a second film here in Detroit. And so I approached him because he was my top choice. So if I had $1 million to make this film, I would have selected Stephen Hill. So for me, I got my top choice, and he told me, even though he was on Magnum PI, that he was still down for it. And I approached Emerald Garner again, and she was still down for it. She read the script. Ramsey Orta, we had developed a relationship, and he had read the script, and they all said yes. So that was that. So I started to move forward. And ironically, the film that I had produced prior to this one, I used a film insurance company out of New York. So for me, it was a no-brainer to get film insurance again. This time I'm shooting in New York, but they saw the untitled Eric Garner project, and I got opposition. I got opposition from NYPD's film unit, who was quote unquote helping me initially, only to turn around and not help me and push me through the process, take my money, and tell me I can't help you.
That part of blocking, delaying,
the
telling of the truth.
Yeah. And then the film insurance company, instead of dealing with one of the representatives, I'm now dealing with the vice president, who ultimately denied me insurance. So at that point, now you know I have to do it, because now I'm feeling this opposition. And so, long story short as possible, I looked outside of New York at the suggestion actually of this guy who was helping me with cop cars. And I have to say, this is a Caucasian gentleman, so I want to say that for a reason. But he was like, "Why don't you look at New Jersey?" And so he was helping me. So I went in and I ended up looking at Jersey and looked at Newark, and forgot that my friend from Howard University was the chief of staff in Newark, and his brother Ras Baraka is the mayor. So my friend is Amiri Baraka Jr. of the infamous, Leroy Jones, aka Amiri Baraka. And I called him and said, "Hey, I need to shoot a film about Eric Garner in your city." He connected me to Desiree Hadley, who was over the film office, and said, "Let's go."
That's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. 6 degrees of separation for Negroes is more like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah. Facts. So I proceeded. Everything was a go. I was raising the money, and we shot the film. For me, at that point, there's a spiritual thing that begins to happen that all filmmakers can attest to. It's an organic experience where it's bigger than you, and you may have been the vessel, but there's other things going on you can't deny if you pay attention. And when you become practiced at this, you tend not to panic. In the beginning, you panic when things like this come up, but as you are seasoned, you understand, oh, okay, this is going to be more than I thought it would be. So I moved forward, and then it started to really take this interesting form. One of my castmates is none other than Richard Rosario, who I didn't even, again, I have to give credit to God because I didn't think of it on my own. But he is playing a part in the film that's important. And he was in prison for 20 years in New York State for murder, which he did not commit, wrongfully convicted, and the officers refused to follow his leads and investigate. Puerto Rican man, and he won. He fought with his attorneys and is a legal beagle, in my opinion, and beat his case and is free now. And I called him and thought, "Hey, I want you to play this part." He was interested in acting. He's been consulting on major films with like Bronze Studios, but he hadn't, had an acting job yet. And I called him and said, "Hey, I want you to play this part." And it happened to be his birthday, the day we were filming. And he was also in New York with his civil case. He had been out for 6-7 years, and he was in the middle of his case, and he took the time to come and be a part of my film. So, it has mission all over it for me.
Absolutely. Things come together at the right time when you need to. I want everyone to remember the killing of Eric Garner. So Eric Garner, born in 1970, he was a horticulturalist. He was 43 years old, a horticulturalist at the New York City Department of Parks and Recs, I do believe.
Yes.
So he was not what the popular media has portrayed him to be, selling Lucy's, which are individual cigarettes. This man, family man, was a professional, and he was killed. He was murdered by by the New York police, and they've never been held accountable for it. It's so sad. But before we leave, because this is so wonderful to be able to talk with you, I could do it all day and night. Let's run through a few of your other projects that are coming up, because of course this is in the can and ready to go. What else will we be looking for coming from you, Jamie?
I'm so excited to talk about a documentary project that I'm working on, that I'm co-producing with Black Canon LLC, from Detroit's own Ali Wheeler and Alima Trapp, who are the children of James Wheeler. And I'm sure that name rings a bell. James, when we finished this documentary tentatively called Searching for Black Gold, he should go down in history as the largest collector of Black film cinema memorabilia in the world, in Detroit, right from Detroit City. He's an incredible person who I had the pleasure of knowing personally, who influenced my pursuit. I started collecting Black movie posters because of him. He made us all watch Sweetback. You know, we were teenagers and we knew about Melvin Van Peebles' film. And just an incredible person, and very forward-thinking individual, way ahead of his time. And so I feel very honored to be working on his documentary.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. Now, I saw, because I'm a big liner note on albums and CDs and credit reader.
Yes.
So I was reading the credits of the trailer, and I see that you have Grammy Award-winning guitarist Vernon Reid, who is a guitarist most notably known for the rock band of the 80s, and they're still performing, but the 80s in Living Color, the band. So how did you get Vernon on the project for your soundtrack?
I totally have to credit Donald McKenzie. Donald McKenzie is a drummer, composer, and he created a song called Eric Garner featuring Vernon Reid. And he was, we have a mutual friend, a family member, pretty much, Maurice Shirley and Kira Shirley Adams, who immediately Maurice says, Jamie, you've got to use Donald's song. So Donald and I reconnected. We were already connected, but we talked about it, and he said yes. And I'm also really, really, really blessed to have a song by Shabazz Palaces, who is also a Grammy winner, but most people would recall him from the group Diggable Planets, and he's Butterfly, who is the producer, creator of the group. So he has another group that is probably my favorite hip hop ensemble right now. And we have a song also from them, as well as Batume, who is my uncle, and he's an incredible drummer who studied under the likes of Miles Davis. He's in that generation. So he's good friends with Vince, Miles' nephew. And it's just, and Narducci, a younger new artist. So I'm happy about the music. And the project is a 16-minute short film. You know, and for those who don't know what narrative means in cinema, it's like a little mini movie. So this is not a documentary. You're going to see a voyeuristic experience, and I hope it creates the dissonance that I'm trying to achieve when you watch it.
Absolutely. I am thirsty for this film and the others, but this one right here, you know, because I still think of Trayvon Martin. I think about Eric Garner. I'm very glad that George Floyd's family was able to get some modicum of justice in having those. And once again, Detroit being the center of the universe, who was the prosecutor? The Attorney General for the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison from Detroit, right? Former congressman for Minnesota. He went to school in Minnesota and ended up staying there and planting his roots. But we were able to get some modicum of justice. But these other cases, no justice at all. So being a filmmaker, I've had the opportunity to meet and interview Spike Lee. So you have done it by any means possible. And that was his mantra in the 1980s. So proud of you. So happy that you were able to work in your passion and to bring these stories to life. Before we close out, Ruth Carter. Tell everyone who Ruth Carter is, because we'll say these names and some people may not know, but let's talk about her history so far.
Absolutely. So Ruth Carter is the two-time Oscar Award winner for costume design. for Black Panther. Ruth Carter has been working in Hollywood. She, if I believe she got her start with Spike Lee, but she's done so many incredible films. She's cross genre. She's not just in one area. And she is, affiliated with Sidney Haw. Sidney Haw is my friend, fellow Howard University alum, and he is who approached me to write the story of his life, one of his life stories, about Pro Kid. Pro Kid is a South African hip hop artist that's kind of equivalent to our Rakim in a way, because he is heralded as the person who brought South African hip hop their own unique brand on the map. So he approached me to write the script, and I did. I wrote the rewrite, and then he also later went to Sky Dennis, who also added into the project. And Ruth Carter decided that she was going to produce. This would be her first film that she would produce. So right now, the financing is the factor, but Sidney, ironically, the day before this film shows, his docuseries of this journey will show at Howard University. So everything's tracking timing wise. Yeah, so I'm excited about the opportunity.
Everything's tracking. How wonderful. I was telling you in the green room that I had the wonderful opportunity to work at Howard University's public television station, WHUT-HU, and help to bring a number of Black producers into the fray. And so I'm forever in the corner of anyone telling our stories. Thank you so much, Jamie Burton-Oare. Give them the website address for Jomanja and your social media platform so they can follow you.
Awesome. Thank you, Janice. So the website is Jomanja Films, JOMAJA films.com. My social media, mostly Instagram handles, are at Jamie Burton-Oare, which is JamieBurtonOare, and also at Jomanja Films. Either one, you can reach me. And I just want to say one last thing. For me, this whole story of telling this journey with Eric Garner, it didn't start here. Because I'm from Flint and because this has impacted my life a long time, Malice Green was the initial person that I felt like was close to our home, who experienced death at the hands of police. And I have not ever forgotten that. And so I want to mention his name. And if you don't know who he is, please look him up, those of you out there. But I know if you're listening to Janice, I'm sure you probably know. And so I just wanted to mention that and just say thank you again to Marshelle and Lazar Favors, and thank you for your vision, and thank you for honoring me with a platform. And Janice, your history is amazing. I could talk to you for hours about your history. It's awesome. So thank you for your work and your service and your commitment to our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for Marshelle. I know she had to get to some other events. She is producing, along with her husband, her partner, in all of these endeavors to uplift and to promote and preserve our legacies and tell our own stories. So Marshelle and Marshelle Montgomery Favors and Lazar Favors, this week is going to be awesome. You've got to be there. You'll see our sister Jamie Burton-Oare and her short, but so many others. Come out and support the Detroit Black Film Festival in its 4th year. And it's just going to go on forever because we need it if it has to. So thank you, my sister. Soak up the sun there in Cali. And we look forward to seeing you back here in Michigan. We love you. We are so appreciative of your work and your gifts. Thank you. Everyone, stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages. Be sure to click subscribe and check out our channels along with the award-winning Democracy Now!, all available 24/7 on the Urban Information Network. This is Janice Hazel, and we'll see you next time on Urban Interest.